What do you do when there's already crippling congestion in your suburb, but cycling is exploding in popularity and mid-rise apartments with less car parking are popping up everywhere? This is an old road with new problems. The battle for space on Sydney Road between trams, cars and bicycles has been deadly in the past.
In February, Italian cyclist Alberto Paolon was killed on Sydney Road in Brunswick.
And the story is one playing out on roads across Australia. Something's got to give. So who wins this tug of war for the soul of inner Melbourne? Welcome to Sydney Road, home to 19,000 vehicle trips each day. This bike path has been a godsend for Brunswick, taking 2,500 bike trips off Sydney Road each day. But pretty soon it's going to have to close. Very early works are underway to remove level crossings on this stretch, and eventually this path will likely need to close when the cranes come in. If it does, it's going to get very busy. There are many people who now want to use this time preparing for the Skyrail to put in a long-term solution. The only problem is, no one agrees what that solution is.
Ready?
Yes.
Paula Hanaz doesn't have to worry about slowing to 40 during school drop-off. She and her family of 4 moved into this apartment off Sydney Road a year ago, and they're all on 2 wheels.
Being able to be close to public transport, to be able to get around by bike and not have to have a car and not be car dependent, that was very much an intentional choice for us as well.
Paula is one of a growing number of Brunswick residents living in low or no-car apartment complexes. In the past 5 years, VCAT and Marybeck Shire Council have approved 4 no-car dwellings in Brunswick, with one of them already under construction. Meanwhile, in 2016, 4,000 Brunswick residents regularly rode to work. That's about 10% of the total working age population here, and 10 times the national average. This is what Sydney Road looks like at a quiet time of day. Paula says she'd never ride it, let alone during peak hour. But with the bike path soon to be sidelined, she wants action now.
Even just a trial of separated bike paths on Sydney Road would make me feel a little bit more confident to be able to ride along Sydney Road with my kids on the back of the bike to and from school and daycare.
The government has made cycling safety improvements to Brunswick, but even so, in the 5 years to December, there were 58 crashes involving cyclists and cars on Sydney Road, where level crossings are about to be replaced. Sydney Road traders are firmly in the no camp when it comes to removing the 450 parking spaces. They are adamant that fewer on-street parks means fewer customers, something no one can afford post-COVID.
COVID taught us to adapt, and we did adapt at the time being. But getting hit with something like this, a blow like this, I don't know how it's going to impact us, because there's so many businesses that have shut down. You can just go along Sydney Road right now and you'll see there's so many businesses that have shut completely due to COVID. There's leases available. It never used to be like this.
But is this actually the case? A study from 2019 found that while traders thought 61% of customers travelled to Sydney Road by car, the reality is only 39%. The figures for how many people walked or biked to Sydney Road, by contrast, were underestimated. There are also more than 2,000 car parking spaces just off Sydney Road.
A local milk bar deals with locals only, but a business of my calibre, so we're talking about a reception centre, a venue where people actually come to from all over Melbourne, and you've got shops that are adjacent to us, so wedding dresses, tailors and various other businesses. They literally have clients coming from all over Melbourne.
So is it feasible to remove car parks? Costings from the Parliamentary Budget Office, requested by the Greens, suggest the bill will be $1 million. This public transport expert is also on board.
As this corridor intensifies, there's absolutely going to be a need to provide more for pedestrians, cyclists and public transport users, and having to really seriously rethink the availability of car parking. I mean, if we're building for the 2020s but we have a transport solution from the 1950s, it's not going to work out very well.
In a statement, the government says that if access to the bike path is impacted during Skyrail construction, alternative routes will be provided, and that they'll try to balance everyone's interests to keep Sydney Road both safe and dynamic. So what's the solution here? Is it time for Melbourne to kick its dependence on cars and put the interests of other road users first? Or does the politics of this issue condemn it to the too hard basket forever? Australia prides itself on having some of the world's most livable cities, but unless transport evolves to meet people's needs, it's going to be a struggle to maintain the bragging rights.
If we can crack Sydney Road and devise a solution that serves the needs of pedestrians, cyclists and public transport users and removes the car, then that model could be replicated across some of the other shopping strips